current news podcast.
With Elu and Jesse.
Yes.
All right, so get this. We're diving into this whole thing with Kamala Harris and Laurene Powell Jobs. Like, their connection, it's wild.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? What we usually see is like Silicon Valley and D.C. doing the whole political handshake thing.
Yeah.
But this feels different.
Totally. And this article you guys sent, like, it's got all these details. It's not just like, oh, they met at a fundraiser. This is next level.
It's like a peek behind the curtain, right? Like, we're talking about a bond that's been in the making for over 2 decades. Shared history, ambitions, the pressures they both dealt with. It's a lot more than just like a quick photo op.
Okay, so back it up for me a sec. It's the early 2000s. San Francisco Bay Area is buzzing. What brings these two together in that scene?
All right, so picture this. You've got Harris making waves in law. And then there's Powell Jobs, already a power player, investor, philanthropist. They were all the same events, right? But here's the thing. Powell Jobs donated to Harris's very first campaign district attorney way back in 2003.
Whoa, hold up. That's not just tossing in a few bucks. That's putting your money where your mouth is before anyone even knew her name.
Exactly. That's way before the whole tech scene blew up. And way before Harris was a national figure, Powell Jobs saw something in her. A vision, maybe. Something that clicked with her own goals for, like, social change. Don't forget, she was already super into education reform, using her platform to make a difference.
So it's less about Democrat versus Republican and more about shared goals.
Totally. This wasn't just bumping into each other at a party. This seems like the start of something strategic. They saw potential in each other. Plus, they both know what it's like to break barriers in those boys' clubs. Harris in law and politics, Powell Jobs in venture capital and philanthropy. That shared experience, it probably made their bond even stronger early on.
And somehow all that turns into sharing a dermatologist. I mean, the article mentions vacations, weddings even.
Right. It's those details.
Yeah.
You know, it's real when they're swapping skincare tips. They've built that trust, that genuine thing for 20 years. Weddings, kids, the pressure of the public eye, that's a whole other level of friendship.
Okay, but then things change, right? Steve Jobs passes away, and suddenly Laurene Powell Jobs is stepping into her own spotlight.
It's a huge shift. Like, imagine going from that private life to inheriting that legacy. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and she doesn't just retreat. She dives headfirst into politics, working with the Obama administration, lobbying, even hosting fundraisers for Hillary Clinton. That's not just dipping her toes in the water.
No way. She's got the resources, the connections, the voice to make things happen, and she knows it. But here's the thing. She's not just throwing money around. She's strategic about it, using her business sense to get things done her way.
And then comes the 2020 election. And this is where I was floored reading this article. Powell Jobs had serious doubts about Biden.
Right, and she's not exactly in the dark here. She's got her ear to the ground, access to information most people wouldn't believe, and the data she was seeing. Not looking good for Biden.
So what does she do? She makes sure people know. This article talks about her aide going around to other big-time donors, sharing that not-so-rosy data. Imagine being on the receiving end of that intel.
Total game changer. It's all about perception and influence. This wasn't just gossiping over coffee. This was a calculated move to shift the entire game. Remember, these are high-stakes decisions with huge consequences and information. That's the most valuable currency there is.
So we're talking about a behind-the-scenes power play that potentially changed the course of an entire election.
It really makes you think about how these things actually work.
Yeah.
Right? It's not always speeches and debates. It's about who has the best intel and who they share it with.
And just to make things even juicier, Harris is the VP now, but there's already tension brewing, especially when it comes to Biden and big tech.
Oh, absolutely. Don't forget, Powell Jobs is a major player in Silicon Valley, Apple, Disney. She's not going to be thrilled with any talk of reigning in big tech.
Right. It's like this weird mix of personal loyalty and conflicting interests, all playing out on the biggest stage imaginable. So now we're talking about Powell Jobs maybe being in the White House. Secretary of Education even? That's a whole other level.
Right. And it makes sense in a way. She's always been passionate about education reform. Plus, she's got the know-how, the connections. And let's face it, the money to really shake things up. Remember that part in the article about her rallying other women in tech to support Harris? That's a power move for sure.
Okay, but is that a good thing? I mean, on the one hand, it's amazing to have someone so invested in education. But on the other hand, she's not accountable to voters, right?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How much influence is too much? We're talking about someone with serious soft power. She could shape policy in a huge way. And we might not even realize it's happening.
It's like this whole hidden world of connections and favors. Makes you wonder how many decisions are made in smoky back rooms versus, actual government buildings.
It's about realizing that politics isn't just about the stuff we see on TV. It's about the relationships, the behind-the-scenes deals, the whispers in hallways.
It's like that saying, right? The most powerful people in the room are often the ones you don't even know are there.
Exactly. And this whole deep dive with Harris and Powell Jobs, it's a perfect example. We think we know what's going on, but then you dig a little deeper and bam, there's this whole web of connections and influence.
It's enough to make your head spin. So basically what you're saying is we should never take anything at face value.
Pretty much. Always look for the connections, the motivations, the hidden agendas. It's like a giant puzzle. And sometimes the most important pieces are the ones you can barely see.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm definitely looking at the news a little differently now.
Me too. It's all about connecting the dots.
Yeah.
And realizing that there's always more to the story than meets the eye.
And on that note, I think we've done our due diligence for today. This deep dive has been a wild ride.
Absolutely. Thanks for sending that article, folks. And until next time, keep those thinking caps on.
Because you never know what we'll uncover next on the deep dive.
Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Bringing voices, headlines, and shoes. We turn the dial to the daily news.